Growing up, our family went off-roading. We would go on these camping trips to places that were in the middle of nowhere. We would drive for hours and get into the desert sand dunes where there was no campsite, there was no bathroom campground. This was like us in the middle of nowhere with our belongings, our dune buggies, and we would just spend 3 or 4 days out there riding around up and down these dirty, grimy sand dunes. At night, we'd lay out on these sand dunes, and because there was just nothing around, you could see stars for miles, and you really felt like you could just reach out and touch them. It took your breath away. But there is nothing like that ride home, just knowing that you're gonna get to a shower. You're going to clean off this grime that you enjoyed for a while, but now it's starting to feel a little gross. And so you can't wait to get home and just get clean, and it feels so amazing to have that first night in your own bed. When I think about our lives here on earth, I can't help but think it's a lot like being on a camping trip. Because even though we can function pretty well and we enjoy ourselves to some degree, there is nothing that's going to replace that feeling of when we get to our real home, when we actually come into the presence of God and He cleanses us from this whole battle on earth with sin and just struggling through life. There's nothing that's going to replace being clothed in righteousness, like it says. And then ultimately, that we're going to fall into the arms of Jesus and that we're going to hear Him say, "Well done."
After he came home from his first incarceration, our relationship became serious quick. Yeah, I think we had gotten together January, February, and by July we were married. So. He had been working, I think it had been 4 or 5 months for a company, and he was just left to go to Mississippi and work, and I had our daughter who was 15 months and I was 9 months pregnant when the second arrest occurred. That day was pretty crazy. I remember, I think it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, waking up to just this loud banging on the door. Just constant, and I remember getting up thinking to myself, should I answer it? Like, what could that be, you know? And opening the door and just all these people being there. And that was it. He was incarcerated, 15-month-old and 9 months pregnant, due any day.
The things that tie us to this world are going to be different for everybody. At first glance, they may just seem like they're part of life, they're just something that's right in front of us, they're just something we like. But I think we have to realize how easily they capture our heart and they distract us from God and from His purposes for us, and they distract us from our love for Him. In Matthew 6:19, it says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves can break in and steal, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven." And so we have to look at our lives and say, am I storing up treasures here on earth for this life? Or am I really pursuing and treasuring things that are in heaven for my life to come? And that is really a major question that we have to wrestle with in our own heart. We have to evaluate, because I know there are things in my life that I treasure more than God. And I know there are things that distract me from really treasuring Him the most.
Going to visit him for the first time, I think Elijah was only 2 or 3 days old. I knew it would end, but not soon enough. Financially, we sold all that we could. We sold jewelry, we had to forfeit our vehicle, we had to basically let go of everything financially that we could to just be able to pay rent. And that was hard, you know, to see your kids want something, whether it's a toy, you know, they're so little, they don't understand why my mommy can't get that toy, or, you know, going through the store, why you can't have that shirt or whatever it might be. You know, you need rent, you need groceries. So we kind of were letting go of everything. And really it was a good thing, because as we're going through it, you know, that's when, you know, the scripture comes to life. Don't hold value to anything of this world. You know, there's nothing within it that you can take with you. The length of the sentence, we didn't know. It was something that was always up in the air. I think it might have been a year or so of going through things, not knowing how long he was going to be sentenced for. And the fear was, you know, it was anywhere from a couple years to 15 years, 20 years. Yeah, we didn't know until he was sentenced. And it was kind of a relief, like 5.5, 6 years. That was a relief compared to 15. There was no way to be able to take the kids out there and visit. You know, there's phone calls, there's email, there's pictures, but there was no way we could go visit him. When he got home, it was a relief, like to see him for the first time, to step through the door for the first time was like a dream. To have the kids wake up and like, wow, Daddy, wait, what's going on, you know? That was amazing to see. And then it was hard dropping him off at the halfway house, you know, to see the environment that he was in, to see the streets just outside. They were just filled with drug use and prostitutes, and to think like, I've actually got to drop you off here was hard.
It says in James 4, verse 4, "You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world is hatred toward God? Anyone who chooses to be a friend of the world becomes an enemy of God." That's kind of a lot at stake. You know, most of us would say we don't want to be God's enemy, and yet we make friends with the world. We have this friendship, this love that's not appropriate. We're being adulterous really toward God, our Creator. And we're loving this thing that He made rather than Him, the one who made it. And there's another scripture in 1 John 2, starting in verse 15. It says, "Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For everything in the world, the cravings of sinful man, the lust of his eyes, and the boasting of what he has and does, comes not from the Father, but from the world." And then this last verse is so perfect. "The world and its desires pass away, but the man who does the will of God will live forever." And we forget that this world is passing away. This world is not where we were meant to be. This is not our home. We have to detach ourselves from it. We can't cling so tightly to everything that's here. We can't enjoy it so much that we lose sight of the fact that all these desires and all this pride and all this stuff is going nowhere. But if we do the will of God, if we follow Him, we live forever. We have a home with Him in heaven. I had the amazing advantage of seeing a very dear person in my life live this way, and it was my grandma, who was just a beautiful woman of God, a woman who had really struggled in her life with a lot of trials. And yet, the way she talked about Jesus and the way she loved Jesus and the way she loved other people was very profound to me as a child. And she never said to me, Lisa, don't love the world. You know, she just loved Jesus, and she just exemplified this detachment from the world and this love for him. And in fact, at the end of her life, when she was in her 90s and she knew her time was coming near, to die, really. We visited her and we were sitting in her room, and she said, honey, every night as I pull the covers up, I say, Jesus, is tonight the night I'm gonna see you face to face? And the joy on her face was priceless. And it drew me in, because I thought, I don't think I think that way. I don't have that in my mind. I'm not ready like she is. And I just have learned so much from her, and I want that. I do trust God to work and to move and to change my desires and to deal with my selfish heart and to humble me when I'm so full of pride. I've experienced it now, God working and moving, and it makes me want more of him. And so it makes me be able to say to other people, just trust me. Trust me. God will do it in your life as well, because I'm no different from you. There are no super Christians. There are no people that God says, well, I'll give you more of my spirit and I won't give you any. He's saying, if you ask, you will receive, if it's according to my word. So when we ask God to intervene in these ways and to change our perspective and our heart and our worldview, he will answer that prayer. We can count on it, and that is so comforting.
Everything was up in the air when he got home. We didn't know, like, I had a job that was stable. We knew that. We didn't know where we were gonna live. We didn't know, my income wasn't enough to support a family of 4. And then finding out that I was pregnant again, that was like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? Like, my income's not gonna support a family of 5, that's for sure. And the struggles with him trying to find a job, interview after interview, not hearing back, job fairs, nothing coming about of it. That was definitely hard. When Sean called me and said, this is what's going on, this is what this family wants to do for us, I just can remember sitting on the phone with him in disbelief, like, are you sure? Are they sure? They don't know our family. Do they know we have 2 children? Do they know that I'm pregnant again? And the answers are yes, yes, and yes. The invitation was, I understand your family's struggling. You don't have a job. Your family needs to be together. Your family needs to reconnect. We want to open up our home to you. We have a family of our own, but we have no problem with inviting your family of soon-to-be 5 to come into our house and live with us. We're going to give you our master bedroom, and we're going to give you our baby's bedroom, however long it takes for you guys to get on your feet, to get your own place, to really feel comfortable and confident that your family is reconnected in a way that is positive. We've come a long way from 6 years ago, even from a year ago. More positive, more open. I can't imagine having something, having a space, and not opening up, not helping somebody now. Having gone through this, we're given things of this world to share. It's not ours to keep, it's not ours to hold on to. You've got to just really open up and share what you're given.
sometimes we feel so unloved by God when we should feel so unloved by the world. And maybe it's that because in our pride, we're in opposition to God, and that's why we feel so unloved and disconnected. But what we should really feel is so loved by God as we humble ourselves and we let go of all this stuff. And yeah, we're gonna experience opposition from the world. We're gonna be in opposition to the world, and we're gonna feel unloved by them, and that's okay. Scripture says to turn your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And what we have done is we have our eyes fixed on this world and what's right in front of us, and our perspective is so skewed. And so I just want to invite you to lift your eyes to Jesus and believe that He is the giver of life, the holder of life, and that everything in this world pales in comparison to knowing Him and following Him, and one day actually getting to be with Him. So let go of these things that are holding you back and keeping you attached to this world that's just gonna pass away. Remember that we don't belong here. This is not our home. We have a home that's waiting for us. We have citizenship in heaven. That's what we're living for. That when Christ comes, we will be with Him in glory.